unit. I'll be bringing you all of the action of New Glenn's first launch. We're here in Cape Canaveral, Florida at Blue Origin's Rocket Park. This is the heart of New Glenn. Got mission control over here, launch control right down there, and tonight, for the first time, New Glenn is taking off, just 8 miles that way from our launch pad. And we don't just launch New Glenn from Florida, we also build it right here. So the one that's out there on the pad tonight, it was born right here in our rocket factory. And as you can see, we've got several more coming down the line right behind it. All right, it's game time. Denise, my co-host, you ready?
I'm so ready. Hey everyone, my name is Denise Aranda. I'm one of the technical leads for the New Glenn program. Let's light this candle.
Let's do this.
The human need to explore is deep within all of us. Our ancestors crossed mountain ranges, sailed open oceans to map new lands, and sought out the unknown, while always looking to the stars. We're curious, and now we're at a place where we can pioneer new horizons. Now is the time.
New Shepard has cleared the tower.
To open the promise of space to all.
Guys, we're doing it!
And lay the way for generations to come. When our descendants look to the stars, they'll remember this time. When they reflect on where it started, they'll remember this place. And when they honor those first explorers who said, "Let's go," they'll remember these bold steps. We are of Blue Origin. And this,
that's right there, is go for death,
is just the beginning.
Welcome, everyone. It is a beautiful day to launch our new rocket. Denise, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Ariane. I can't believe we're here together. You know, so many years of hard work from across all the teams of Blue Origin to bring us here today. And a warm welcome to everyone watching. I've been at Blue Origin for 4 years, and I just got to say, I am so thrilled to be here.
You were speaking my language, girl. Now, Denise, you're one of our principal engineers on the New Glenn program. I'm looking forward to your insider perspective as we go through launch. What do you think you're most looking forward to tonight?
So many things, but I think for me, hands down, it's going to be the noise. You know, New Glenn is just so big. Those BE4 engines are so powerful, and it's so close to us. I really think that people all up and down the Cape and Cocoa Beach are going to see something brand new today. And yep, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to bring some insider technical content as we go. You know, in my role at Blue as the principal contamination control engineer on the New Glenn team, I'm going to try to provide all those cool details that folks might want to know.
It's great to have you with me today. Thanks so much. You've been one of many team members working extremely hard on this vehicle, so this is a big day for you and the team.
And what a day for you, Ariane. Congratulations on your baby girl. Welcome back from maternity leave.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here for New Glenn's first launch. Absolutely no way I would miss this. I had my beautiful baby girl just a couple months back, and now I feel like I'm back for the birth of my other baby back here, New Glenn. But before we get in a little too deep into the show, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the devastating fires in California. We hope that everybody remains safe, and we want to send our deep appreciation for the incredible work of the firefighters and emergency workers battling these fires and caring for so many people. We at Blue actually have a few hundred employees in the great state of California, many at the center of it all.
We are Team Blue, and our hearts are with you during this difficult time.
Well said. Now, with that, let's turn our attention to the star of the show today, New Glenn, standing proud on the launch tower just a few miles away at Launch Complex 36.
There it is, standing tall. And you know, we've got plenty of cameras all around the pad, so we're going to get some great views today.
That rocket looks good.
It
all
really
right.
does.
Why don't you start, Denise, by giving us a tour of the vehicle?
Well, New Glenn is Blue Origin's next generation orbital class rocket, and it's built on a reusable first stage.
And speaking of reusability, let's look at the aft section there of New Glenn. One of the things that is critical to New Glenn, of course, because it's a reusable vehicle, is the landing gear that's housed in the aft section there.
So there's actually 6 landing legs on that aft section, and they're actually going to deploy right before it lands.
And unlike New Shepard, our suborbital vehicle, New Glenn's booster is going to land out at sea.
New Glenn is going to launch vertically here at the Cape. It'll then arc over the Atlantic on its way to orbit. The first stage is then going to maneuver its way back to Earth onto a landing platform that's actually positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the first stage booster is powered by 7 BE-4 engines, and these are really powerful engines. Each one is capable of over 500,000 pounds of thrust each. So when we combine all 7, we're talking about a launch vehicle with a thrust at liftoff of nearly 4 million pounds.
3.85 million to be exact. Got to make sure our engineers, out there don't call us out. Got to get the sig figs right. But that's just the first stage. And as the first stage is busy landing back on Earth, meanwhile, the second stage is going to continue into orbit. And just for a quick intro for those that are not, really into rockets, when we talk about stages, basically what we're doing is we stack one rocket on top of the other. Stage 1, stage 2. Stage 2 is the bottom. Stage 1 is the Stage 1 is the bottom, stage 2 is the top. Correct,
yeah. So stage 2 is actually what's sitting right there on top of the booster on the pad. And what's really unique about the second stage is that it's powered by 2 BE-3Us. Now, these are actually an upgraded design based on the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen engines that power New Shepard.
And then, of course, there's the crown of the vehicle, if you will, the payload fairing on top.
Yep, that's my favorite part, the payload fairing. It sits right on top of that second stage, and it's really a protective cover that takes care of our payload on its way to space. But it's really what's inside the fairing that's at the heart of every New Glenn mission.
That's right. So every rocket launch is about sending something to space, and today's launch is no different. For this first mission, that payload is a pathfinder for another Blue Ring program, Blue Ring. It happens to be very near and dear to my heart because it's the program that I help lead. But before we get too deep into that, I'm thrilled to say that we've got a couple other faces to meet this evening that are going to be bringing us all the action. So first, I would like to bring in my teammate Maggie McNeese from our government team in DC. She's standing near mission control now. Maggie, you there?
Hey, Ariane. Hey, Denise. We really doing this?
This is happening. We are definitely here at launch day, and you have to be feeling some of the same tingles we are down here. Why don't you situate us to where you are standing up there? What's going on? What is the vibe up there?
The vibes are impeccable. I am here by mission control. Right down the hallway, as you said before, we've got our launch control. In these rooms are our engineering teams and operators who are going to go ahead and be, looking at all of that data coming off the vehicles. They're going to give us our best chance of success today.
Now, we've got a pretty special assignment for you there, Maggie. We're going to have you reporting right up there through the launch to keep us plugged in behind the scenes. What are you looking forward to sharing with us today?
A lot. I'm really, really looking forward to making sure that you know what's going on in these rooms, take you through some of the personalities we've got inside, how it all works. If there are a couple anomalies, we'll work through those together. It's going to be a great time, Ariane.
Love it. Thank you so much, Maggie. We're grateful to have you up there and keeping us connected. And of course, we're going to patch you in as we go. Now, let's check in with our broader Blue team. Our employees in Florida today are getting a close-up view of the launch over at nearby Cars Park. Eddie Seifert is there standing by. Eddie, you there?
Yeah. Hey, Ariane. Welcome. Welcome to the best seat in the house. We've got the best Team Blue behind me. I hope you can hear it. It's pandemonium. How are you guys doing over there?
Oh, my God. I love the energy. Talk to us. Tell me about the scene. What you're seeing. What's the view? Talk to us.
We are 6 miles away as the crow flies to Launch Complex 36. It's pandemonium here. New Glenn is perfectly viewed in the distance, and we are here to support at Cars Park. We're joined by Space Coast residents. We're joined by family members, team members. This is really an exciting moment for Team Blue.
Eddie, now you're a familiar face across Blue Origin. You've had a front row seat at Blue watching this rocket go from design to build to test. What's going through your head right now?
You know, it's a collective sense of anticipation. Everyone here has done everything that they knew to do to the best of their ability. Their family members have sacrificed for them to be here at this moment at New Glenn 1. And we have one proposal. Let's send it. Let's light this candle. Let's send New Glenn to space. Let's send Blue Ring on its mission. This team is hyped.
Well, Eddie, one more cool thing that you and the team collaborated on. I understand all of Team Blue signed the fairing before it went to the pad. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, so signing space hardware is a tradition at Blue. From the New Shepard propulsion module panels to the crew capsule base heat shield, those engines on New Glenn have our signatures. Now, the nice thing about those 7-meter fairings that are over 60 feet tall is that it can fit the signatures of more than 10,000 employees that currently call Blue Origin home. And so that's what we're sending to space in addition to the hardware. And this team right here, they made it happen.
Well, thank you, Eddie. Can't wait to check in with you again shortly. You keep the Team Blue pumped down that, but I have a feeling you're not going to have too many troubles. No. They seem pretty psyched.
We're psyched to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Well, I look forward to what both Eddie and Maggie can bring to the show. Let's take a little deeper dive into the mission today.
So there is a lot. Right now, we are tracking a number of technical milestones between now and liftoff, and then there's going to be another set of critical in-flight milestones once we're underway. Now, we do want to be very clear about our objectives today. This is New Glenn's first flight, and we prepared rigorously for it. But no amount of ground testing or mission simulation is a replacement for flying this rocket in space.
Well put. Our key objective today is to reach orbit safely. Anything beyond that is icing on the cake, bonus points, cherries on sundaes, whatever you want to call it. We know that landing the booster on the first try offshore in the Atlantic is ambitious, but you can't win if you don't try, and we are going for it tonight. And no matter what happens, we are going to learn, refine, apply that knowledge to our next launch, both, of course, in the design of the vehicle, but also into the operations. And about that booster, again, yes, we are going for it. New Shepard landed on only its second attempt in November of 2015. I happened to be on the ground for that in West Texas back in the day, and it was wild. And man, I can't wait to see if we can make some more history here with New Glenn, which our booster today has been named with a pretty cool name. You wanna tell us that?
Sure is. Our booster's named So You're Telling Me There's a Chance.
Classic 90s movie reference there for all you Jim Carrey fans. But let's level set here. You think we're going to stick the landing? Like if you were a betting lady in Las Vegas this evening?
So we think it's possible. You know, the truth is that this is an enormous goal. We're trying to land a giant building-sized vehicle that's plummeting down from space. There's just so much complex engineering that goes into this. But you know, it's time that we try it for real, and today is that day.
Let's do it. Let's put it to work. We'll see how it performs. But hey, no matter what happens, we're going to learn a ton, get loads of data, and apply it to NG2 and beyond. Now, that said, if we land this thing, I'm going to lose my mind.
You and me both.
Okay, good. Just setting expectations for everybody on this one. Now, some other business to discuss this evening is the payload we have on board. We have early technology demonstration on board for Blue Ring. And as mentioned before, it is something that I'm very excited about because it's related to the program that I help lead here at Blue Origin. There it is on the left side of your screen there, sitting nice and ready to go in the payload fairing. But to be clear, what you're looking at, this is not Blue Ring itself. This is not the Blue Ring spacecraft itself. It is a pathfinder for the Blue Ring vehicle. And so the Blue Ring vehicle that we are building currently employs a lot of the same technologies and capabilities that are put in that vehicle that you see on the left of your screen. And today we are going to validate the communication capabilities from orbit to the ground. Now, it's also worth noting that today's payload is non-separating. So it's going to actually stay attached to the second stage throughout the mission as it powers on and it begins collecting data. For the broader system we're building, for the Blue Ring itself, you can think of Blue Ring as a utility vehicle, a multi-tool, or kind of a mobile service station that we can use to run errands around the solar system. Today, on this mission, it's a super cool pathfinder for that vehicle that will be flying. We have some exciting details to share a little later on. We're going to get way in depth on the exact technology that we're testing today, as well as Blue Ring. But I'll tell you right now, I'm super excited about not just the launch, but the payload, and for both, the New Glenn team and the Blue Ring team. So much work has come together today. And that's why today is such a big deal. We're going to be laying the foundation of our mission to build a road to space for the benefit of Earth.
Such an exciting launch and just so much to aim for.
Yes, but to level set again, at the end of the day, we know that we're in this for the long haul. Today is just day one, the beginning of a new chapter for New Glenn. We're going to collect a significant amount of data, no matter what happens. And from our perspective, the way I like to put it, data is the currency of success. The more data we have, the better off we are. The longer we fly, the more data we collect, the more we can crunch on, so we can reinvest back into New Glenn for New Glenn 2 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And that data is really going to be critical for our engineers and our ability to evolve New Glenn into a fully operational program. With New Shepard, we've flown 28 missions so far, and we've sent over 40 astronauts to space. And while we consider that system fully operational, that flight data that we get after every mission helps our engineers fine-tune the system. It helps us refine our procedures, reduces the overall time between launches, and perhaps most important of all, it significantly drives down the cost of spaceflight.
And we have learned so much as New Shepard has progressed. And by the way, those learnings all come into play on New Glenn. We've integrated a lot of design and operational lessons from New Shepard into New Glenn. So, and speaking of lessons learned from New Shepard, there's that recurring Blue Origin theme of reusability. New Shepard has, with its booster, of course, one that lands, right? New Glenn, the same deal. But let's point out one big difference. New Shepard lands on a landing pad in the desert, while New Glenn's landing pad is out in the Atlantic Ocean. I should take a moment to note, the ocean, the seas out there have been quite rough for the last several days. So, that is why we took a little bit of extra time to get a really good chance of landing this booster tonight. So a big kudos to our team that is out there operating the Jacqueline. They have been rocking and rolling with the waves out there for several days, but things are going to get exciting this evening. Now, a key piece of this landing system is the landing ship, which we call the Jacqueline. You want to tell us a little bit more about the Jacqueline?
Would love to. So we've actually named our landing platform after a very special Blue Origin family member, the Jacqueline. It's right now out at sea, a couple of 100 miles from Cape Canaveral, and the crew that's operating the Jacqueline is actually positioned nearby in a different support vessel.
That seems prudent, doesn't it?
It does.
Just saying.
We're also going to, there it is. And we also have a lot of cameras on our ship today, so we expect to be able to watch it live as our booster touches down, and that's just going to be so cool.
Yes, it is going to be such a pivotal moment. Our first landing attempt for this rocket, we have got to make sure that that gets captured regardless of what happens. And there's a live shot, a beautiful landing pad there with our Blue Origin feather, just waiting to just welcome home a rocket from space. No big deal.
And after that booster lands on the Jacqueline, the vessel is going to transport the booster back to our facilities here at Rocket Park. We're going to do an inspection before flying again. And this is, of course, very important because...
You've heard us sing this tune before. Reusable vehicles are how we will radically reduce the cost of access to space. Now, I hope you're all out there getting a sense of the set pieces here that make up today's launch. We've got the vehicle itself, we've got the ground systems, but we've also got the sea-based systems. And of course, all of the people, the teammate across the Cape and the US, frankly, that are working hard to get us to our launch. Now, let's take a moment and toss to New Glenn on the pad as we make our way towards the very first orbital flight for Blue Origin. Welcome back, everybody. We are officially at T-minus 38 minutes and 57 seconds to go until launch, our first launch of New Glenn. I should note that as we go along here, you might see our clock bounce around a little bit. That's just our teams getting aligned and making sure that by the time we get down to zero, everybody's set and ready to go. But talking about ready to go, Denise, why don't you give us an update on the vehicle and its preparedness?
Absolutely. So our team has already completed fueling up New Glenn's propellant tanks for both our first stage and our second stage. We are now entering the next step, which is called propellant conditioning. This is, of course, a crucial step because we need to make sure that those propellants are at the right temperatures and at the right pressures. We also need to manage pressure. You might have noticed that there's a lot of excess gases that are being vented from our first stage and our second stage. This is because our cryogenic propellants are so cold that they're experiencing something called a boil-off. So we are venting all that excess gas to prevent buildup and overpressurization. You may have also noticed on your screen that we have the flame stacks, or what we lovingly call the tiki torches. That's there as a safety mechanism to make sure that we are burning all that flammable oxygen and hydrogen, protecting New Glenn and our launch pad. So that is where we are right now. We'll keep tracking progress as we make our way to terminal count.
Thank you very much. We will look forward to the next update on the team and the rocket there. Now, we mentioned that we're sitting in the rocket factory here. Blue Origin's mission control is right upstairs, right above our head. And we're very close to where the rocket is itself. So maybe if you zoom out a little bit, Denise, you can give us a sense from a geography-wise where we're sitting.
We are super close. So behind me, I have a map of Florida. You can see very clearly here we have Merritt Island and Cape Canaveral. If you go ahead and zoom in, I'll show you where we are right now. We are right now at Blue Origin's Rocket Park. This is where New Glenn is built, integrated, tested. This is where we're coming in live from our studio. And just a short 8 miles away, we have LC-36, where New Glenn is standing proudly, waiting for its first launch. You just heard from Eddie and a few of our employees. They're just here in Cars Park, and if you're lucky enough to be watching from either Jetty Park or anywhere up, down Cocoa Beach, you are going to get a great view of the New Glenn launch tonight. So that's the lay of the land here. It just really goes to show you how the full operation of New Glenn is nearby.
And not only that, but New Glenn, the New Glenn operation is also right in the heart of all this great space history here in Florida.
So the Atlas II and Atlas III launches took place from here. The Mariner, Pioneer, and even Surveyor missions. They sent spacecraft to explore Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, and even the lunar surface. Here's some footage showing off the renovated launch pad that carries all that history.
Now, I think I speak on behalf of everybody here at Blue Origin that it's just an honor to be launching a next generation vehicle right here on top of all of that history. And the launch pad is so close. I mean, I know we're going to hear it and feel it in this building. I mean, I literally would not be surprised if lights start shaking.
You know, from here, we can watch and hear just about any launch system that takes off from the Cape, and it gets loud. But we think this one, for New Glenn, may be one of the loudest ever. For one, the pad is just so close to Rocket Park, but also there's just the enormous size and power of those 7 first-stage BE-4 engines.
And we have been talking about that rumble for years, and I cannot wait. As a California girl who has lived through a couple of earthquakes, I am ready for this one. This is going to be awesome. Now, you mentioned a second ago, it's just so unique that the public is going to get such a great view of New Glenn launches, especially from viewpoints like, you know, Jetty Park, Port Canaveral, Cocoa Beach. So many people gather to watch launches from these spots already. And wow, I mean, look, this is a live view. If you're sitting there right now on Cocoa Beach, shout out to you guys. You're probably sitting in a nice lawn chair with a cold beverage in your hand. That's what I'd be doing if I weren't here behind the desk with you, Denise. You guys are going to get to see and feel this launch with an insane view. So, you know, other than maybe tripping some tsunami warnings, y'all are going to have a great evening.
There really is nothing better than a beachside rocket launch.
Well, and weather permitting, it's not just people down here in Florida. People in the region, kind of the southeast region of the U.S., you see this image right here. Look, that's going all the way as far north as, you know, North Carolina. Several states north are going to be able to see this launch during different phases of flight based on where you are. So a little bit of a guide here. If you guys are all still up, you know, it's a bit late here on the East Coast, but this is an exciting launch. So shout out to you guys as well that are watching live from the East Coast. All right, everybody, we're at T-minus 33 minutes and 30 seconds to go and counting down to our launch window opening at T-minus 0 for New Glenn's first launch. Denise, I cannot believe I'm saying that. We've been talking about this such a long time. It's just wild. Now, again, this is our first flight. We have prepared rigorously for it, but I want to reiterate, our key objective today is to reach orbit safely. That in itself is a big deal, and anything beyond that is a bonus. That said, we also know that landing the booster would be very cool. We also know that it is very ambitious to do this on the first time, but we're going for it. And no matter what happens, we are going to learn a lot, we're going to refine, we're going to apply that knowledge to our next launch and beyond. It is an exciting day, and we are so glad that you, our audience, is here to join in on all the action and all the excitement. Okay, while we've got a moment, we've got this beautiful rocket on the pad on our screen. Why don't we dive in a little bit deeper on New Glenn? Denise, our experts here, why don't we dig in, give our audience a sense of what sets this vehicle, New Glenn, apart from other launch vehicles, both, you know, past and present?
Well, to start, it's just massive, just over 320 feet tall, or almost 98 meters. And just think about that. That's like a 32-story building. It's really hard to describe what that means, but another way to think about it, we all know and love New Shepard. Picture 5 New Shepards stacked one on top of the other, and that's approximately the height of New Glenn.
And that's remarkable when you think about that jump from New Shepard to New Glenn. Just that size. Oh, say, there you go. You see this great image on our screen here that gives you a sense. We talk about step by step ferociously. That's a big old step we're taking tonight.
It's also amazing to think that New Shepard technically could fit as a payload right inside of New Glenn's fairing with room to spare on the sides.
And as fun as that would be, We don't really need to ship New Shepard off to another planet anytime soon, as far as we can imagine, although that would be a pretty cool,
that would be cool,
sneaky, you know, third and fourth stage if you count that capsule in there. But that said, we make this point because it speaks to future capabilities, like moon landers, other large vehicles that are similar in size to New Shepard. You know, it is incredible that fairing volume and the size, what it's going to enable as we build this road to space. Now, it's not often that you get to stand next to a massive rocket like that on a launch pad, ready to go to space. But you and I had an amazing opportunity. This is just a day or two ago. And I don't know, I just look at this video and I get tingles. It was incredible to be at the base and looking at what our team has worked on for such a long time. There you see the flame trench. Smoke and fire, baby. That's what we're looking for tonight.
I get chills every time I watch that. I mean, that was just so, so incredible. That's not something that I will likely forget anytime soon. It's just so tall when you're standing right next to it.
Yeah. Well, that tall rocket is going to space tonight. And you all are going to be here to watch and cheer on with us. It's a big night. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that'll give you a key differences between a vehicle like New Glenn and others that have lifted off from this pad in the past. I think there's another key thing about New Glenn, and it really is that reusability aspect. So while the scale of New Glenn is truly remarkable, I mean, this rocket is built for big things, supersized, with an incredible lift capability. But to do that in a way that's sustainable, using reusable hardware, I think that for me is the biggest innovation for New Glenn.
100%. Reusability. It is such a critical component of reducing the costs of future access to space. You just can't say enough how important reusability is.
And so New Glenn also has that second stage rocket, right? We talked about the first stage and the second stage. And, you know, rocket fans know this, but just like Saturn V or other big launchers, rockets fly in the first stage and the second stage with the job of the first stage, or sometimes what we call the booster, to lift the vehicle from Earth up to space. The stages will then separate, and it's the second stage that powers our payload into orbit.
So here you see a cool, again, another cool overlay. Oh, you saw it just a moment ago of the Saturn V rocket. I mean, we are just about the same height, like, and the power of the two vehicles and the significance to be compared to that is amazing. And you know what? Our game plan, like Saturn V, our game plan is to use New Glenn to go to the moon too. I hope you host that webcast with me too on that one. Coming here shortly. So that's our orbital rocket in a nutshell. Now, while we've got a couple minutes to go here, we're at T-minus 28 minutes to go until New Glenn's first launch. Why don't we check in with our teammates over at Cars Park? Eddie, you there?
Yeah, hey Ariane, we're here at Cars Park. We're less than 6 miles as the crow flies to Launch Complex 36. We can see a great view of New Glenn standing 320 feet tall, the two vehicle access towers, one of the largest water towers in the world, and we are ready. Aren't we ready, team?
Quite the crowd down there, and I feel like it's grown exponentially since we saw you last. And not just current employees, but their kids and future Blue Origin employees are all out there psyched for this first flight.
We've got our New Glenn patch.
What are you hearing the employees talk about?
So listen, we're looking forward to the rumble of the BE4 engine. We're gonna hear it. We're looking forward to the blue streak across the dark sky. And we've got, you know, the flags, the emblems, the swag. We're very proud to be here. We're very proud to be sharing this moment with our community, right? The word that everybody keeps using tonight is grateful. How grateful we are to be here, how grateful we are for each other, and how grateful we are for the Space Coast that has accepted us.
So a lot of these folks have day jobs here in the factory, and you're not far from us, but describe the view you're getting. How is it different from what people will see from here at Rocket Park?
Yeah, we've got an unencumbered view of the launch pad of New Glenn. We'll be able to see that arc as Blue Ring heads on its mission, and we're very excited about that. The air is electric here. We're just buzzing with excitement, and we're thrilled to be here, really.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous that you guys are going to get such a straight-on view of the launch pad. Well, not complaining. Denise and I have a pretty great seat here, too, but thank you, Eddie. We'll be checking in back soon with you there again down at Cars
We've
Park.
got one more chant for you guys. We're going to get loud for you.
Wow, I love it. I love it. You feel the energy down there. I absolutely love it. Now, one employee on the New Glenn team that is not down there with Eddie, and I do want to give a special call out to our program leader for New Glenn, Jarrett Jones. Jarrett has led the New Glenn program for years, and I'm very grateful to be able to call him a friend. He has a deep background in aerospace. There he is. And he's been instrumental through the build-up to today's launch. I mean, there you see him just a moment ago, and let's see. Can we point him out here in launch control? Yes, he is there, kind of that first row, bottom left. There you go, checking in, got his eyes glued to his screen, talking to one of our long-term core employees here. We got Mark Featherstone, who has been also leading this program for a long time. And man, and you saw that image just a moment ago with him in front of the New Glenn. That was the day that we installed the 7 engines on New Glenn for the first time. And I'm pretty sure he is absolutely psyched. You also see the gentleman in the center of that front row in the green sweatshirt. That is Dave Limp, our CEO, who joined us just about a year ago. And man, talk about sparking some fire. It has been wonderful to have him on the team with us, and he is clearly absolutely dialed in. And last but not least, in between Jarrett and Dave, Jeff Bezos, our founder, who of course has been thinking about this day for many years. And I should also throw in a special happy birthday to Jeff. What a day. I wouldn't mind having a rocket launch on my birthday, but this man deserves it. So much patience, commitment, passion for what we're doing. It's just, we are very lucky, Denise, to have such a leadership team here supporting us at Blue as we go through all of these programs and getting them off and going. But at the middle of many of them and the core to making a lot of this work, New Glenn. That's why today is so important. Okay, everybody, we're at T-minus 23 minutes to go until launch. It is so great to have you all joining us for today's inaugural launch. We have folks tuning in from all over for this big day, and of course we had Eddie and the team down at Cars Park. But we also wanted to give a nod to a couple special groups watching from across the nation. We've got employees tuned in at multiple sites, checking in and rooting for New Glenn. As I mentioned, not only do a lot of our employees work on multiple programs. There we go. We got Kent. We got Huntsville. I love it. Kent, of course, our headquarters. I see you guys. Huntsville, where we build all of our engines, our BE4s, our BE3Us, and of course, Blue Ring. You guys should be so proud.
Their team spirit. Oh, I just know that everybody here has worked so hard for this and cannot wait for the next 22 minutes. Hi, everyone.
And our team down in Huntsville, our beautiful engine factory. You guys are just the best, just the best. Well, you can see the passion, the energy. We have been working so hard to get to this point. All right, well, I can't complain about our view from right here. We have got a pretty sweet spot here, but I do want to go upstairs to our co-host, Maggie, who's up near Mission Control. Maggie, you there?
Here, and I have found a new place to hang out.
Wow, all right. So I know that not only do you get to hang out in your mission control, but this for our audience gives you a sense of how close they are to just being able to go outside on the deck there. Tell me about this view that you get and that some of our VIPs are going to get tonight.
Yep, I am out on the balcony. We are on the 3rd floor of our rocket factory. And just out there, you can see the red blinking light at the top of our tower. So the launch pad is right out there. And then just to my left here is the mission control team. So you know when that rocket goes up, they'll be turning their heads briefly to the right. So we're out here, we've got some guests, VIPs, some of our blue family inside. They're still in there while it's warm, but I expect to see more and more people headed out here soon.
Now, Maggie, I know you're able to also listen in on the radio with the team behind you. What are some of the things that you're hearing?
Sure. About this time in the count, I am hearing them going into their weather brief. They are making sure that everything is clear downrange. That's both the water and in the air. And I haven't heard anything thus far, Ariane.
Well, thank you, Maggie. So great to have you up there, keeping us tuned into all of the action. As we noted, we've got launch control and mission control right back to back. We'll be checking in again with you in a couple of minutes. Okay, we're at T-minus 19 minutes and 50 seconds to go until our targeted liftoff. So we're getting closer and closer. And we want to point out a few things coming up ahead in our countdown, because some of them actually come in a pretty quick sequence.
Yeah, so coming up, we're going to have a planned weather check. This is where our teams take one last look at the weather for launch today. This weather check validates that our trajectory is still on track, and the team will continue to close out any remaining open items that could be on their dashboard.
The very capable folks in launch control upstairs will undoubtedly be checking through closeouts over the next few minutes or so. And once we get through those, we'll start to go into some final vehicle checks. So do you want to walk us through those final vehicle checks?
Once we get to about T-4 terminal count, we're going to transition New Glenn into where our auto sequence begins. And the operation really becomes hands-off for our operators. We're going to be switching New Glenn to internal power, internal hydraulics, and things will move really quickly from there.
And then, as we approach the final moments, and just before we light the engines, there's this water deluge.
It's a huge water deluge. This is going to engulf the flame trench completely, which is going to protect our rocket from vibroacoustic and thermal loading. Finally, autopilot will be enabled. We'll flex the gimbaling engines, and then, well, ignition.
Game on, ignition. I cannot wait for that moment. So all of this is very exciting, even to just hear said out loud. I think there's also a very specific sequence for starting the first stage engines. And talk us through that, because it's not like they just all turn on at once. We got to be careful about how we sequence the engines igniting.
Correct. So you might think that we ignite all 7 BE4s at once, but that's actually not the case. We do something called a staggered start sequence. Engines 1, 4, and 7 will light first, followed by engines 2, 3, 5, and 6. Now, of course, these will happen in a very quick succession, but the staggering start really helps to decrease the sudden pressure on the whole system. There just truly is so much power in those BE4 engines. So staggering them creates a more smooth on-ramp for all that power.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about the rocket, but you can't forget the ground systems as well, right? So when we are essentially protecting the rocket from the vibration and all that power coming out of the engine, we're also protecting the launch pad itself, right? You see from the map that you showed us earlier how close we are to the water. The water table is just a couple of feet below the launch pad. And I should really talk, a lot of engineering went into the complete refurbishment of our launch complex. And so we want to take care of it. It's there for the long haul. But man, we got a big old powerful rocket. So this water deluge system is critical to both the rocket and the ground, the launch pad, the ground support equipment. Okay, we are at T-minus We have just had a clock update here. We are at T-minus 37 minutes and 20 seconds to go until launch. As we mentioned, this is kind of what we can expect from our team as they get aligned and ready to go into launch today. So they just need a couple more minutes, and that's A-OK. You know, we say this on the New Shepard webcasts as well, which is we have spent years designing this rocket and, you know, months building it and months going into designing this operation. If we need a couple more minutes before we press go on this thing, that is A-OK with all of us. So with that, why don't we take a moment here to check out this beautiful New Glenn rocket on the pad, getting ready for its first mission to space ever. Welcome back, everybody. We're at T-minus 33 minutes and 53 seconds to go until New Glenn's first launch. We are so happy to have you all joining us for this historic launch, both here in the U.S. and everywhere around the world. Denise, tell our audience, where are we up to in the preparation of our vehicle?
So right now we're completing a systems functional check for New Glenn, and this is critical because we're ensuring that all of our systems are operating nominally. We're going to verify propulsion, avionics, guidance, communications, and even safety systems. Our engineers are also running diagnostics on all the BE-4s and BE-3Us. We're checking flight computers, we're checking telemetry. We're also going to do one final comm check. This is really crucial because we want to make sure that we're getting the right data between the rocket and the ground, as well as verifying the signal integrity. Now coming up, we're going to do one last weather check. This is where we get real-time data on wind speed, direction, temperature, humidity, cloud cover, lightning, even thunderstorms. Not just for the LC-36 pad, but we're also checking the weather where the Jacqueline is, so that she's ready to receive our booster. So that is where we are right now. Things are going to move quickly here.
Thanks, Denise. And yeah, we should reiterate again, the weather, we got to take into consideration the weather here, but also downrange. where the landing ship is, the Jacqueline. We've mentioned it earlier. Of course, that was one of the reasons why we needed to take a little bit more time before getting to launch this evening. The sea state out there, it was a little rough. They were rocking and rolling. And we want to give our rocket the best chance of coming into land and sticking that landing on the Jacqueline. There is the Jacqueline ready to receive the first stage of New Glenn so we can take it back home, refurbish it, put another payload on top, and go again. But again, we should reiterate some of our objectives for today. The primary objective is to go to space, go to orbit safely. That's number one. And if we happen to land this booster, as we mentioned before, there are going to be a lot of people losing their minds, mine as well. So stay tuned for that. Now, Denise, why don't you go through a little bit more of the flow down there? So the Blue Ring team is up in mission control right now, also surely tracking their own checklist as they make sure the Pathfinder payload is ready to go to launch as well.
Correct, yeah. So upstairs at the MC, we'll have a launch control and mission control. So our launch team is the one that's doing all these system checks on New Glenn, while mission control is making sure that they're doing similar system checks for the Blue Ring Pathfinder.
Wonderful. And let's take a second and dig in a little bit more on that payload. The Pathfinder is a cool piece of technology, and really it's just the initial demo for a vehicle program called Blue Ring that's quite far along in its own development. And we mentioned this earlier, today's demo is a non-separating payload. This means the payload tonight is going to stay attached to New Glenn's second stage for the entire 6-hour mission. The other thing I want to reiterate about this, this Blue Ring Pathfinder is it's going to be testing a lot of the same technology, but it's not the Blue Ring itself. It's not the same form factor, but we're going to learn a lot from this evening. Now, what we want to, excuse me, I should say, as we talk about the Blue Ring Pathfinder, I want to reiterate that it's attached to the second stage and it will stay there as it orbits the Earth. And that also is not normal, but we wanted to do that for today's demo mission. Now, today's demo mission on the Pathfinder is going to prove out some important components of our future vehicle, Blue Ring. And I get really excited. Clearly, I get so nervous I get excited talking about this. I love this program. It's one that I've had a hand in getting off the ground for the past year as part of Blue's in-space systems team. But I want to take you deeper into Blue Ring. Let's check out this video.
Blue Ring allows you to do many different things with one vehicle.
It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of satellites. It does a lot, and it does it really well.
Blue Ring is part of building that base layer of infrastructure in space that we at Blue Origin talk about. We can take up to 13 customers up to space, up to 3 metric tons, deploy those satellites.
It's going to give them all the capability that they need to be able to be placed where they want, or they can use a lot of the capability inside of Blue Ring.
It can do data storage, data computing, relaying the data.
And it's going to be a massive asset because it now allows all these payload customers to offload all of their data relay and critical processing needs.
You've got space domain awareness, you've got communications capabilities, and then you've also got this ability to host things on Blue Ring itself.
For customers who need orbit maneuver, we can maneuver them between orbits, within an orbit.
We can have nominally 3,000 meters per second of delta V with this vehicle, and in some configurations all the way up to 4,000 meters per second. And it has dual propulsion systems, meaning that I can use the chemical systems for really fast maneuvers, but then have electric propulsion for all of the station keeping and low energy maneuvers. A lot of our work is going to be done in geostationary orbit for sure. But we've got capabilities to go out to cislunar orbits and interplanetary.
Blue Ring Pathfinder is going to be on our first New Glenn flight, which is really exciting.
This first mission, it demonstrates our space-to-ground interfaces. So it proves out that we can command our vehicle on orbit, can receive data from the vehicle.
We'll be testing out and demonstrating a lot of the capabilities that will be hosted on the Blue Ring vehicle as a whole.
We're building not just the transportation systems through New Glenn, but also the infrastructure that will help future generations take advantage of what space has to offer.
Blue Ring is going to multiply what we can do in space and create the infrastructure like nothing else.
I don't know about you, but I am pretty excited, if you can't tell, to be able to say that the team I work with in my day job, Blue Ring, is the team behind the first payload ever on New Glenn.
It is so, so cool. Thinking about the way a vehicle like Blue Ring will open up access to space. I mean, that's really what it's all about. That key aspect of today's mission is that demo of space-to-ground communication capabilities for Blue Ring.
You got it. The Blue Ring Pathfinder will be testing its ability to send commands to the spacecraft, receive telemetry, and edge processing software that will demonstrate local autonomy and machine learning that will be part of the storage and compute mission kit that's going to be flying on all of the future Blue Ring vehicles. So basically, it has a computer predicting if the spacecraft is getting sick. We're also testing radiometric tracking, which, by the way, helps in navigation by using radio waves to track the spacecraft's position and velocity. So basically, radiometric tracking uses radio frequencies to track where the vehicle is and where it's going.
So Blue Ring is going to be very busy during this mission. It'll be sending and receiving data, it'll be tracking its own location and processing mission data real time. And all of this will be communicated over RF to Atlas antennas stationed in Hawaii, the state of Georgia, and even Australia.
Yeah, these ground stations will collect telemetry and radiometric data, which is crucial for understanding how the spacecraft is performing and navigating in highly elliptical orbits in the MEO range. Now, this is unique because it allows the spacecraft to spend a significant amount of time over specific areas of Earth, making it an ideal orbit for certain communication and observation missions. And this is all part of proving how Blue Ring can navigate. All the data collected from this mission will be used to support the future production of the Blue Ring space vehicle, which undoubtedly will play a vital role in further space exploration and communication technologies.
That data and experience gained from this Pathfinder mission will be invaluable for our engineering team. It really does pave the way for more advanced missions. It helps ensure the reliability and the efficiency of future Blue Ring vehicles.
There you have it, folks. Now, Blue Ring Pathfinder is supported by the Department of Defense's Innovation Unit, or DIU. And let me tell you, we're so thankful for their involvement today. I should say they have been so supportive of our Pathfinder, but just the Blue Ring program in general. They are believers like us, so thank you to them. All right, with that, we're at T-minus 24 minutes and 3 seconds to go until T-minus 0. This is NG-1, the first flight of New Glenn, and we are so glad you're here joining us this evening. Why don't we take a moment to talk about our mission objectives for the launch? This is our first flight, and we've prepared rigorously for it, but we also know that none of this is easy. And our key objective today is to reach orbit safely. Anything beyond that is icing on the cake, bonus points. We know that landing the booster on the first try offshore is ambitious, but we are going for it. No matter what happens today, we are going to learn, refine, and apply that knowledge to our next launch. We're really looking forward to seeing how the vehicle performs. As I said earlier, more data, the better, right? We've pushed every single part, component, system in our testing well beyond its limits by design, but we also recognize that no amount of ground testing or mission simulations can replace the real-world conditions of flying this system into space, which is why we can't wait for the mission to get underway, see how things perform, and apply all the lessons learned to our next launch and beyond. It is an absolutely thrilling day. Again, we're so glad that you're here to share it with us. Now with that, we're at T-minus 22 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. Why don't we take a moment and check out New Glenn on the pad as it gets ready for its first launch to space today. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are at T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds to go until New Glenn's first launch. What a day for us. And, you know, it takes many, many smart people to bring a vehicle like New Glenn together. And one of those great people that I've had the pleasure of working with over several years is someone who now leads up customer integration for New Glenn. That is Blue Origin's Laura McGinnis. Laura is the Vice President of Mission Management for New Glenn. Now, before Blue, Laura spent time in a similar role with United Launch Alliance. She also had quite the career at the Air Force. And I had the pleasure of chatting with her just for a few minutes, just a little bit earlier, to hear what customers can start to expect from a vehicle like New Glenn. Let's listen to that chat.
Laura, thank you for taking the time, especially on such an important day, to give us a tour of the factory. This is kind of like your second home, I imagine, for the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, Ariana. We're so excited about this factory and super excited to show you all a little bit about it.
Well, so talk to me a little bit about what we got going on here. We've got multiple rockets coming down the line.
Yeah, all kinds of things going on. So the basic layout is that the raw material comes in from the south side of the building down here at the end of the aisle. We weld the tanks together down there. Then we bring the completed modules here for assembly. Over here we have our GS1 aft module, which will have landing legs, 7 BE4 engines installed. We do all of that work. We continue to assemble the stages down here. We build fairings. Behind the wall over here, our 7-meter fairing, which our customers love, and eventually we roll out the Glenn Stage 1, Glenn Stage 2, and the fairings out of the north end of the building. Those are all transported 8 miles over to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and are assembled in our integration facility over there prior to launch.
And that's also, of course, where we integrate the payload as well. Just talking about customers a little bit, what have the various customers been saying about what they're excited about?
We're working with our national security customer right now on certifying New Glenn because they really need an additional launch system.
Right.
We're also working with our NASA customers. They've got a lot of interest in the size of our payload fairing, both for rideshare kinds of things as well as large telescopes and large instruments. Commercial customers are thrilled about our capability of bringing many small spacecraft to LEO.
And we've already been doing some integration precisely with these customers. How has that process been going with our customers?
We know our customers make us better. So these customers, many of them have been launching different missions, different systems for years and years, and working with them to understand their needs, understand how we can adapt our system to best meet their needs.
So that's kind of the longer term work that you and your team have been doing. But let's get back to NG1 for a second. What have the last couple of weeks been like down here at the Cape?
It's not simple to take this whole system into a successful vehicle. I would say one of our best learning opportunities was our integrated launch vehicle, Hotfire.
Video was it was awesome. Beautiful, was awesome. Glowing blue is like a, all right, this is game time.
Totally, yep.
This launch, NG1, what are you most looking forward to? When it is go time, when the rocket lifts off, what do you think that's going to feel like?
I mean, I will say I love that final 4 minutes when we pick up terminal count and we're counting down and the room is super quiet, the energy, the excitement, the moment, and then feeling that liftoff, seeing it on its way over the horizon, and then hearing that final call out that we have inserted our payload customer successfully into orbit is like just an amazing moment, and I can't wait for it. I know New Glenn's going to do it. It's going to be a great day.
A big thank you to Laura again for joining for that quick tour through our factory right behind where we are this evening. Okay, we are at T-minus 31 minutes and 6 seconds to go until NG1. We continue to tick down towards our first launch. I will mention again, you may have seen we went down and then we added some more time to the clock. That is just fine. That is our team taking a couple more minutes to make sure that all of their procedures are aligned as we tick down towards T-minus 0. So you might see a little bit more of that happening here. While we've got a little bit more time, why don't we talk about the flight profile for this evening's launch? What is that going to look like as we see this vehicle fly today?
We've imagined New Glenn's flight for so long. We've looked forward to this day, and I'm so excited just to see another vehicle of this size flying from the coast of Florida. We're going to be feeling the power of those BE-4 engines here in the studio very shortly. After liftoff, there are a number of important milestones in the flight that we'll be tracking, so let's go ahead and take a detailed look at what New Glenn's first flight is going to be like.
New Glenn lifts off from Launch Complex 36 on Cape Canaveral. 7 BE-4 engines will ignite and propel the rocket upward with over 3.8 million pounds of thrust, or roughly 17,000 kilonewtons. The vehicle will quickly reach supersonic speeds as it climbs through the atmosphere. As the rocket ascends, it will encounter maximum aerodynamic pressure known as max Q at around 40,000 feet or 12 kilometers. This is the point at which the stress on the vehicle is at its highest. Around 3 minutes into the flight, the vehicle will turn off its engines, marking the end of the boost phase. Shortly after, the reusable first stage will separate and begin its journey back to Earth. 2 BE-3U engines on the second stage will ignite and propel it onward into orbit with the payload. The reusable booster reorients in the vacuum of space using its reaction control system. At 220,000 feet or 67 kilometers, it executes an exo-atmospheric deceleration burn using its center 3 engines. These engines gimbal for maximum control of the booster. This burn slows the vehicle down before re-entering the atmosphere. As it descends, the booster's strakes and fins work together to slow it down and guide it autonomously back to Earth, landing on a vessel at sea. At around 9,000 feet, or just under 3,000 meters, the first stage begins its final landing burn. The 3 middle engines will light for 20 seconds, slowing the vehicle in preparation for the final descent. The 2 outer engines will turn off, and the center engine will execute the final controlled maneuver onto the landing platform. The vessel will return to Cape Canaveral to prepare for its next mission. Meanwhile, in space, the second stage will continue to power the payload towards its final orbit. At around 400,000 feet or 120 kilometers, the payload fairings will jettison. New Glenn will deliver an unprecedented range of payloads. Large satellites, dual payloads, orbital vehicles, large constellation dispensers, even moonlanders destined to establish permanent human presence on the moon. This is New Glenn. This is how we will build a road to space.
So again, there you got an opportunity to see what the mission profile will be for this rocket this evening. But I think what was really cool about that video as well is it gives you a sense of the future as well in terms of the various vehicles that we're going to be able to take on this rocket, whether it's a lot of LEO satellites or a lunar lander or a massive GEO payload, whatever it may be. I think that's one of the coolest things about this vehicle. It is very versatile, and it's the power of the vehicle matched with the volume of a 7-meter fairing that's going to allow this vehicle to be a workhorse for Blue Origin as well as our customers for years to come. So a beautiful rocket on the pad there waiting its first launch to space. Welcome back, everybody. We're at T-minus 16 minutes and 45 seconds to go until launch here. An exciting evening for all of us here at Blue Origin. I'm so glad that you've joined us. Now, we have spoken about the wealth of experience in the New Glenn launch and mission control rooms upstairs, and I want to take it back to Maggie upstairs, who is standing by up there. Maggie, you with us?
Yep, Ariane, I am back at Mission Control, and as we make our way towards terminal count, the energy is high. It might seem like it's a little quiet with everyone sitting down, but the communications are ongoing. The launch director and his team are working super hard to get us there.
I love it. They're in the zone. So, Maggie, I'd love for you to talk us through some of the people behind the mission up there. Walk us through who's on console.
We've got some of our best and brightest here in the Mission Control Center. So the Mission Control Center is actually a network of rooms. We've got Mission Control, Launch Control, and engineering support rooms where our team is looking through data constantly. Now, this whole team is led by our launch director. His name is Ben Dykstra. Ben is responsible for the launch, tip to tail. He is doing the go, no go, and making sure that we get our best chance of success. Ben actually comes from our New Shepard rocket. So Ben is a great example of how we take our flight pedigree from New Shepard and we are building it into New Glenn. Now, Ben and I go way back. We worked on New Shepard together for quite a while, and I've had a chance to talk to him quite a bit this week. And I was asking him what his pre-launch traditions are and what he's bringing here to New Glenn. And he gave me a couple answers. One, he sets 3 alarms because he really does not want to miss his call. I have a feeling he didn't have to actually use all 3 of them today, but I'll ask him afterwards. And then he also sets little Post-it notes on the screens of his console mates so that they get a little funny note or a little encouraging thing from their launch director before they go. And then when we do terminal count, he will be doing his fist bumps with the entire team.
I love it. I know Ben is going to crush it. Why don't you give us some other highlights? Who else is supporting Ben with launch control today?
Ben is supported by a really large team, and we're not going to have time to touch on them all, but a couple here. First, we have Ann Dickey. Ann is the assistant flight director, and shout out to New Shepard again. Ann comes from that program as well. Now, Ann has been working the integrated schedule all week long, really making sure that this team is ready to go. And after we launch successfully, she is going to get herself an ice cream cone, and I will be joining her. Next, we have Martin De La Torre. Martin is a ground controller, which means that he will be working through all of the data and controls of our ground system out there at the pad. So as complicated as we all know rockets can be, the systems that are working around it are equally as complicated. And so Martin has a tough job today, but we know he's working hard. His favorite quote is from Stephen Hawking, and so he's got heroes, I think, like the rest of us. Next, we have Stephen Shelley. Now, again, you talked about the Jacqueline a little bit earlier. That's our offshore vessel, and Stephen Shelley is our offshore recovery lead. So as we go through this whole process, the team and the launch director, Ben, are constantly checking in with Stephen to make sure that we know that the barge is ready should we be able to land New Glenn. His launch day ritual is actually the same as Ben, another 3-alarm guy. So we'll be asking him as well. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Megan Lewis. Now, Megan is one of our 2 primary launch controllers, which means that she has control authority over a lot of these major systems on New Glenn. Megan is from Utah, and in a very sweet story, Megan is actually wearing a bracelet today that her grandfather gave her grandmother with charms for every Apollo mission that he worked. So a really incredible legacy of spaceflight in that family, and they're bringing it to the Blue family. So we're really proud of them today. Megan Lewis and team, led by Ben Dykstra, are getting it done.
I love it. Just some wonderful stories, and each one of them has their ritual. I'm glad that seems like their alarm system has worked, because yes, they are all on console and ready to rock and roll today. That's a good thing. So, hey, Maggie, stay plugged in up there for us, and we will keep checking back in with you. All right, everybody, we're at T-minus 11 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Why don't we take a moment here and send it over to the pad and check in on New Glenn as it gets ready for its first launch to space today. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 27 minutes and 5 seconds to go until launch. You may have noticed that we've added some more time to the clock. As we mentioned before, this is just our teams getting aligned, making sure that each of the separate sub-teams have all gone through all of their checklists, make sure that everything is in the green, making sure that the weather here at the Cape and downrange, everything is within bounds. So again, if we need to add a couple more minutes, that is quite all right with us. But while we've got a little bit more time, I would like to check in with my colleague, Eddie Seifert, out there at Cars Park, where he's joined by Team Blue Origin, here, our team that's based here in Florida. What you got going on down there, Eddie?
Yeah, hey Ariane, welcome back to the best seat in the house here at Cars Park. I'm with the Smith family. We're working at Blue Origin, and working on rockets is a family affair. I'm with father Mike Smith, son Corbin Smith, and granddaughter Elizabeth. Elizabeth, tell me, you've sent a postcard to space, is that right?
Yes.
And tell me, what was on your postcard?
There was rockets and planets.
Rockets and planets on the postcard. Now, Corbin, how did you get your start at Blue Origin?
So I first started up in Huntsville, where I worked with an amazing team on the engine crew, building BE-4 and BE-3U. Now I'm here down at Rocket Park, building the thrust structures for GS-2.
Excellent. Must be special to be working on that GS-2 rocket out there. And Mike, how about you? How did you get your start at Blue?
Well, it was my son that actually encouraged me to apply, and we got hired around the same time, and it's been awesome being able to work with him on different projects. We get to talk about work at home and do different things. We bleed blue at home.
Excellent, excellent. And Elizabeth, tell me, what are you most looking forward to today's launch?
For the rocket to go up in space.
Well, I think we're going to end on that note, Ariane. We're looking forward for that rocket to go to space. Let's send New Glenn to space. Let's light this candle.
I love it. It is a family affair, and I love seeing the different generations there, father, son, pair working at Blue. I look forward to seeing that little firecracker, that little girl joining us in a couple of years here in the future. It just speaks to, it takes years to build these rockets, and that's what we're here to do at Blue. We're here to build these rockets that are laying the foundation for building the road to space, right? And so that children like her can pick up the torch and build on top of that. We're setting forth so that they can build infrastructure in space, and really, it's all for the benefit of Earth. Well, with that, thanks, Eddie, for checking in with us. We are at T-minus 24 minutes and 10 seconds to go until launch. Let's check out New Glenn on the pad as it gets ready for launch this evening. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 19 minutes and 55 seconds to go until launch. New Glenn looking good there on the pad. We saw some beautiful views. As Denise has talked about, all the propellants are nice and chilled down. You saw the big, beautiful Blue Origin word mark and feather on that rocket. She is looking beautiful. But we do have a little bit more time here. Why don't we take a moment to talk about the BE-4 engines. We're looking at the vehicle right now. At the base of the vehicle, oh, that's a pretty shot right there. You see the 7 nozzles of the 7 BE-4 engines. You want to tell us a little bit more, Denise?
Yeah, so New Glenn is powered by 7 BE-4 engines. Now, these are the nation's first reusable, oxidizer-rich stage combustion booster engines. They use liquid oxygen and liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which is essentially a commercial form of methane.
Yeah, and we selected LNG because it's cleaner burning and more efficient than kerosene, or also known as RP1, rocket propellant 1. That's what a lot of rockets use. It's also low cost and widely available, which is really important when you're doing lots of launches, which is our intention for this New Glenn program. I should also note that we have done a ton of testing on the BE-4 engine, and we also want to keep those costs down as well. All of it adds up, right? And one of the coolest aspects, though, about LNG is that it can self-pressurize its tank through a process known as autogenous repressurization, right? So this eliminates the need for costly and complex systems that use helium, which is pretty rare. So normally you got helium and other gases in there to push the pressures properly through the engines to get them ready to go. But with LNG, it basically does it on its own. That's what that means.
It's so fascinating. And, you know, in terms of power, each BE-4 engine generates an impressive 550,000 pounds of thrust. So when you combine all 7 engines, New Glenn produces about 3.85 million pounds of thrust at launch. And just to put that into perspective, that's roughly half the thrust of a Saturn V rocket, which took humans to the moon. Imagine that power of 200 Boeing 737 airplane engines all firing at once. That's what we're looking at here.
And that is a ton of power. You see that these images here, this video, this is from our test facility down in West Texas. And man, oh man, I have been down there actually for one of these tests. And our facility down in West Texas is in this valley. And it just reverberates. You feel like you're in the inside of a drum. It just shakes the entire valley, and I mean, it's just incredible. And we're putting 7 of those at the base of this vehicle. The other thing you should see in that video there is that it burns this really cool blue color. So that's a nut. I'm not saying that's why we chose this propellant, but it's a nice little bonus to it.
It sure is.
So a lot of power coming out of these engines, but then also a lot of interesting technology that's gone into the turbo pumps too. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
They sure are. So the turbo pumps, which pump fuel and oxygen, are also incredibly powerful. Together, they produce the equivalent amount of horsepower needed to power 2 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers at full speed. Yet each turbo pump is small enough to fit in the back seat of your car.
Think about that. I mean, the comparison is crazy, but just think about that efficiency that goes into that turbo machinery. Then you also see here, obviously, the comparison between our BE-4 engine. So there are 7 of those on the base of the vehicle, and our BE-3U, BE-3 upper stage engines, or 2 of those on the second stage. I want to talk a little bit more here. You see the comparison of the BE-4 to the BE-3U. You also have a comparison of the power of it as well. You know, both of these engines are highly sophisticated and have unique functionality built for New Glenn itself. So for BE-4, as we noted, we've got 7 of these engines in total at the booster. We saw a cool image of that a second ago. The 3 middle engines are gimbaling engines that can pivot to help steer the rocket. So that will be working, of course, in conjunction with the fins at the top of the booster. Now, those 3 middle engines are going to relight to help with deceleration and landing burns. And the other 4 engines are fixed. And this is the combination that gives us both the power that we need, but also the flexibility we need for different stages of flight.
And you know, the BE-4 engines are produced at our manufacturing facility in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're tested rigorously at our facilities, both in West Texas and Huntsville, to ensure they meet the high standards.
Yeah, and we should note there are 7 of these on New Glenn, but our friends at ULA with their Vulcan rocket, they use 2 of these engines. And those have already flown successfully to space. So we are very proud of that these engines have already flown to space, and can't wait to see them power this New Glenn rocket as well. They are going to be rattling this building very, very shortly. Well, with that, at T-minus 35 minutes to go until launch, let's toss it back to the rocket and check out New Glenn as this vehicle gets ready for its launch to space this evening. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are at T-minus 25 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. You may have seen we've been adding some time to the clock. This is to allow our teams to go through their checklists. Keep in mind there are multiple sub-teams that are up there in launch and mission control. We want to make sure that everything is ready to go, and if some of those items on the checklist take a little bit of extra time, we are going to do so, especially since it is NG1. We want to make sure that everybody is prepared and everything is aligned. We should also mention, again, we have to keep our eyes on the weather, both here and downrange. So with that, let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad as this rocket and our teams get ready for NG1. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 23 minutes and 45 seconds to go till launch. With all this action going on upstairs at Launch and Mission Control, why don't we check in with our friend Maggie. Maggie, you got me?
Loud and clear, Ariane.
Right on. What's going on up there? What are you hearing about the status of our teams?
Yep, things are busy. The team is continuing to work through a few anomalies before we can proceed into terminal count. So we've got the engineers looking at all that data. We've got the controllers working through workarounds. So something that I think people don't always think about is that we have an enormous amount of what we're doing here in pre-launch procedures that's, scripted. We can plan it. But when off-nominal things are happening, we've got a team of controllers who can manually operate these systems. So the team that we talked about in our last bit, they are actually going through and able to turn things on and off, put different pressure through different valves. They are working through everything they can to make sure that we have a chance to launch today.
Fantastic. Yes, it's, we run through, when you talk about all the preparation for a launch, of course, we talk about, testing the rocket itself, but we also go through a lot of these simulations in terms of the operations with our team. And you test as much as you can, you go through as many rehearsals as possible, but sometimes day of, you gotta put that's why we got the really smart people in there so that they can work through whatever it is they're finding that might be a little bit off, and that's what our team is doing up there. Maggie, what
Ariane,
else? Sorry, go ahead.
No, the team here has gotten some good practice. I think we all saw the hot fire that we recently successfully made it through. So that is, almost everything up until launch. Before that, we had a successful second stage hot fire. Those were those BE3U engines. And before that, we were doing tanking tests, mass simulators. We've done component testing, system testing. And a lot of the engineers that are working in this room are actually responsible engineers on the floor. So they've gotten their hands on this hardware. They know their systems.
Excellent. Very good point. I think I've always appreciated what we do here at Blue Origin. We tend to rotate our engineers. A lot of them, as you said, get to go down to the floor, see their hardware maybe that they've designed, talk to the men and women that are fabricating, but then also assembling the vehicle. They are very, very in tune, in touch with this vehicle. So if there are things for them to work, especially in these last minutes, we've got the right team to do it. Maggie, I want to thank you again for bringing us all the details. We've got a couple of minutes to go here. We got 20 minutes and 47 seconds to go until launch. Why don't we take a look at New Glenn as this rocket gets ready to go to space. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are T-minus 19 minutes to go until launch here, and while our teams are continuing to get aligned, why don't we take a moment to chat a little bit about this amazing building we are in, the factory at Rocket Park here in Florida. This is where it all comes together, where we bend the metal on New Glenn. I literally see people down there bending metal, pulling, putting the components together, testing, cleaning. But also, not only do we talk about, just all the intricate pieces and parts here, but to build a rocket like this, the sheer scale of the facility here, this factory, but also the other buildings around here are just mind-blowing.
It really is quite impressive. So Rocket Park is essentially where we bring our rocket dreams to life. We're talking about state-of-the-art manufacturing and assembly areas designed to produce rockets efficiently and, of course, sustainably. This is where the stages of New Glenn come together.
Yeah, exactly. And the folks here at Rocket Park are not just building rockets, they're really shaping the future of space travel. I should say, I've had the good fortune of being here for 10 years now, and I have seen this facility, the whole park, in addition to Launch Complex 36, come together, and it is just amazing. Like, really from the bottom up, and the ability to build the next generation rocket in the next generation rocket factory. Like, our team is given what they need to make just an incredible vehicle. Why don't we take a deeper look at the home of New Glenn, Rocket Park?
Welcome to Blue Origin's Rocket Park in Florida, the home of New Glenn. This is where our orbital rocket is designed, built, integrated, launched, refurbished, and reflown, all within a 9-mile radius along Florida's Space Coast. Rocket Park is an active operations site for many Blue Origin activities, including manufacturing, integration and testing for New Glenn, and production of our Blue Moon lunar landers and future programs. Florida's Space Coast is 72 miles long and steeped in more than 6 decades of human spaceflight history. We stand on the shoulders of giants. New Glenn will help us build a road to space for the benefit of Earth. It's the foundation of everything we will accomplish. It will deliver cargo and crew to anywhere, including the moon, and help us establish a permanent lunar presence. It will enable us to harness the resources of space and launch all kinds of infrastructure to make space accessible, usable, and affordable for humans. The factory on Merritt Island is the centerpiece of Rocket Park. It's here where New Glenn is built and tested. The high bay is where New Glenn becomes real. Raw material enters at one end, and completed rocket stages roll out the other side. From there, New Glenn heads to the surface coatings facility for its thermal protection, paint, and artwork. It then heads to tank cleaning and test, or TCAT, for pressure testing and cleaning. The factory is also home to New Glenn's Mission Control. On launch days, Mission Control comes alive as the rocket rolls out from its hangar down the road and goes vertical at Launch Complex 36. This historic launch site was rebuilt from the ground up just for New Glenn. Protected by 2 lightning towers, almost double the height of the Statue of Liberty, New Glenn prepares for liftoff at mile marker 0. This is where the road to space begins.
What a beautiful area Rocket Park is in. There's just so much history here on the Space Coast, and we are eager to write our own chapter with New Glenn.
Absolutely. There really is just so much history, and there's something to be said about the testing and integration and design teams all working so closely together. I know that working on the programs myself, being able to talk to the designers and the people who are making the hardware is just so valuable to increase communication and efficiency, and our campus really allows for that.
100%. The physical proximity is really, really important. And it's not known, actually, but historically rockets have launched out of the Cape, but they haven't been built here. And so to be able to build our rocket here, do the integration here of the rocket, but then also obviously the payload with the rocket. And then when we get GS1, we get the booster back, we'll be doing all of the refurbishment here. That is so important, that co-location, to have that all come together. And, you know, I love that video because you see all the action. As I mentioned, you know, it's so funny. I was looking through photos earlier today, and I've got photos in the flame trench when they were just putting it up. Amazing. You know, they were pouring concrete. You know, I remember being in this facility when there weren't doors on. It was just, you know, dirt on the ground. I remember we had no joke, we had a poll when they were clearing the land for this rocket park as to how many turtles we would find, because we have to relocate all of the turtles because there's incredible wildlife in this area. So of course we wanted to make sure that we protect those animals and the wildlife. And so we had a poll as to how many turtles we were going to find. God, I wish I could remember.
I was going to say, do you
remember? I know. I didn't win it, clearly. But you know, there's just so much work that went into building this facility from the ground up. And to be here today is just, it feels surreal in many ways. And, you know, I was just talking a little bit about the factory itself, but the launch complex, you know, LC-36, as you touched on earlier this evening, has been around for a long time, has been where many historic rockets and missions have launched from, and we basically stripped it down to the ground and rebuilt it for this world-class rocket for decades to come. You know, we invested in this facility knowing that we're going to be here a while. With that said, we also here at Blue Origin like to pay homage to the giants who have the shoulders upon which we stand, right? Like the vehicle, of course, is named New Glenn. But also what's really cool is, and you can't quite see it here in the dark, but we kept what's called the blockhouse. So during a lot of the previous launches, there would actually be a crew in the blockhouse, which is not very far from that launch pad, when they launched a rocket. This thing is like a concrete fort, basically. It's not very big, and on the inside, it's got these massive, heavy doors that close to protect the teams. To be very clear, we're not using that blockhouse tonight. We don't use it in our operations, but it is something that we have kept on site because of the history that is in that facility. I hope that one day I'll be able to go back in there. I did get a chance to peek my head in a couple of years ago. It feels almost like, what's the right way of putting it? It feels like a step into the past.
Yeah.
You know, the old computers and like, you know, the ashtrays. They're literally cigarettes that are still there from back in the day. We don't allow that in our launch control rooms. But again, clearly a throwback to the past. But just this facility, it feels really good to be here. It feels like we're set up for success as much as possible, which is really, really great. Okay, we are at T-minus now 36 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Again, our team has added more time to the clock. They are working through their checklist. There's clearly some things that they want to spend a little bit more time on, and that is okay. I will reiterate, we have spent years designing this rocket. We have spent months and months designing this mission, building this particular vehicle as well. The design and test that's gone into the engines that are powering this rocket. If we need a couple more minutes, especially on this first launch, that is okay with us. You know, we want to give our team the right time and the space that they need to, you know, to work on whatever they got going on up there. I also want to, you know, keep in mind, my understanding is that the weather continues to stay inbounds here at the Cape, as well as out at sea. But for the moment, we have decided to put more time on the clock, which means that we still have a chance, still have the opportunity to launch this evening. I should say,
I was waiting for it,
I
Ariane.
know, it's pretty apropos because this vehicle says...
So you're telling me there's a chance?
That is the name of this booster. So yes, everything is, it's like it was meant to be for this vehicle.
It really
okay,
is.
With that, we are T-minus 35 minutes to go until launch. Let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad as it continues to prepare for its launch to space this evening. Welcome back, everybody. We're at T-minus 31 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. As you may have noted, we continued to add time back to the clock. That, of course, is to make sure that our teams are aligned. I do understand that we're working an issue. That is okay. That means, you know, if we're adding time to the clock, it means that the team thinks that there might be a possibility that we can sort it out so we can get to a launch this evening. So we're going to give them the time that they need. Beautiful launch of the, beautiful view of the vehicle on the pad there. From the outside, she sure looks ready to go, but of course, there's so much that goes into a complex vehicle like this. But since we do have some time, why don't we take a closer look at our vision and mission at Blue Origin? You know, as we've said time and time again, we're building a road to space for the benefit of Earth. This vision isn't only about exploring space, it's about making life better here on Earth. Let's check it out a bit more about our vision.
New Shepard is just the beginning.
The first step.
From the very start, it's only been about one thing: Earth.
Earth, our Blue Origin.
We've sent robotic probes all over the solar system, and it's full of wonders: gas giants, rocky moons.
Earth is the best planet. It is not close.
Despite the variety, despite the wonder in the solar system,
there's no place like home.
Earth is our home, and there is no other place like it.
All life on Earth are uniquely matched to this planet. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the solar system. Not even close, no way.
We have no choice but to preserve Earth.
Preserve this planet, this one.
we get to focus on the future, and the future is nothing without Earth.
For almost all of human history, Earth has seemed big.
It seemed big, but we now know it's small, it's finite. And we know that the rate that we're using Earth's resources is not sustainable.
Earth has things that we need to work on in the here and now.
But there are also long-term problems.
We can't wait to work on the long-term problems. We have to work on both.
One fundamental long-term problem.
We will run out of energy on Earth.
It's just arithmetic. It's going to happen. Humans have always used about 100 watts of power. That's our natural metabolic rate.
But in our developed technological society, we use over 10,000 watts of power per person.
Humans' use of energy is not actually a bad thing.
We live in an era of dynamism and growth.
There are so many good things that happen when we use energy.
Think about technology, transportation, hospitals, data.
As humans, we are at our best when we are inventing, when we are growing, when we are making progress.
But humans are doubling our energy use every 25 years, and that's unsustainable. Today, you could cover all of humanity's energy needs by covering the state of Nevada in solar cells. But at that rate of growth, in 200 years, you'd have to cover the entire planet in solar cells.
What can we do? Can we be more efficient? Yes, but we have been.
Today's technology is more efficient in nearly every manner.
We are gaining efficiency, and yet, when we gain more efficiency, what do?
We use more energy.
We have an ever-increasing demand for more energy.
So what if we just use less? Well, that doesn't work either. Throttling energy use means slowing down progress. You stop living in a world of abundance and you move to a world of scarcity and rationing.
There has to be another way.
There is another way. Space.
Space is full of abundant resources and energy.
Space is vast and practically limitless. If we can learn to harness the power of space and the resources of space, we can tap the limitless resources to help preserve this planet.
We can go to space for what we need. We'll make it routine, safe, and cost-effective to get there.
We will build the rockets and the destinations for doing real work in space.
We can do even more than this. We can move the most polluting industries from Earth into space, where they can't hurt the Earth or the environment.
We can return Earth to a beautiful natural state. It will be like a garden, like a national park.
A place for education, for creativity, and for recreation.
A place for enjoyment and for nature to thrive. In space, we can expand humanity. We don't want to leave Earth behind, but preserve it and expand humanity into space.
We can have 1 trillion humans in the solar system, which means we'd have 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. This would be an incredible civilization.
Humanity will grow and progress and use energy for good.
Humanity can expand into the solar system by building destinations close to Earth, close to our home planet.
New places, places we haven't even dreamed of yet.
Places that feel like home. Places where great work can be done using the resources of space. An expanse that is meant for everyone, all kinds of people.
This is a hopeful future. An enduring human presence in space. Space is the long-term solution for Earth.
We are building a critical part of the infrastructure that's going to allow others to unlock
the road to space so that future generations can unleash their creativity.
It won't be easy. Space must become much, much more accessible to make this vision a reality.
Big things start somewhere, and that somewhere happens to be today.
There are certain gates we have to go through, certain prerequisites. If we don't do these, we will never get there.
First, we have to radically lower the cost of access to space.
This means reusable rockets.
We have to get really good at using rockets over and over.
Reusable rockets, reusable engines.
Once you learn how to do that, you can basically start spinning this flywheel where the more you fly, the cheaper it gets. The cheaper it gets, the more you fly.
Launch, land, repeat.
Going back and landing a rocket is really hard. And it is absolutely essential that we get good at that so that we can drive down the cost of launch vehicles.
BE3, BE4, BE7, all made from the ground up to be reusable propulsion systems.
Operational reusability. That means making space travel as routine as air travel is.
This is what will radically bring down the cost of getting to space.
And we are bringing all of that learning to New Glenn, the next step of building the road to space.
Once you have low-cost access to space, the next gate becomes harnessing the resources of the solar system.
There are so many more resources up there in space than there is on our planet.
I mean, everyone's familiar with this idea of locally sourced goods, and this is just a really extreme version of that.
The moon is where we'll learn to do all this.
The moon has a vast quantity of resources.
And if we can learn to harness those resources, we can travel without stressing the Earth.
That's the goal. We'll go to space, and we'll use its resources to power our transportation and build destinations.
Anything we need, we will use the stuff in space to make it happen.
The moon is the next thing. We're going back.
It's time to go back to the moon, this time to stay. Make no mistake about this. This is not going to get done by any one generation. One of the things that we have to do is inspire those future generations.
This vision of millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of Earth is a very, very long-term vision.
It's gonna take generations.
We have to make sure that what we're doing today is setting up the next generation.
It's going to take all kinds of people.
Engineers, entrepreneurs, architects, artists, you, your children, your grandchildren.
This is kind of humanity's cathedral. You know, cathedrals took multiple generations of artisans and craftsmen and masons to build. And there was never the expectation that one person would design and fully execute the vision.
We have to inspire the next generation to carry this torch for the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth.
We are Blue Origin.
And we will do all of this.
We'll do all of this.
For the benefit of Earth.
such an inspiring message. You know, actually our very name, Blue Origin, means Earth, right? So, you know, when our future generations are out there looking back, they will look back at their blue origin, at Earth, right? And so we really need to protect this planet. The other reason why I love our name Blue Origin is it means Earth. It means all of us. We are building these really cool, you know, pieces of space technology, not only just for one country, not only for one hemisphere, it really is for the entire world. And that's why, you know, I love that that our company has this bigger, broader vision. You know, actually, before I took my current role, I was leading our commercial and international sales, and it was just really nice to get out there and talk to our international customers and people from around the world in the space industry. I should say a big shout out to them out there if you guys are watching, you know, and really talking to them about whether it's New Glenn or Blue Ring or our lunar lander, what they can do and how they can take advantage of our technologies. I just love that we think broadly like that, and it's one of the many things that's kept me here at Blue. But I also want to talk, you know, obviously the main theme of that video there is this idea that as part of the long-term vision, we really need to protect this planet and the role of space technologies. What we're doing at Blue and what other organizations are doing around the world is so important because it is going to help protect Earth, right? And that's also why we start with reusable rockets and reusable rocket engines and the way that we're designing them to run on propellants that are less harmful to the Earth, like liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and LNG. We were just talking about that earlier. It's just so important.
It gives me such a sense of pride because it really is about the everyday work that we do now and how that would impact future generations. So all of this is going to create a longer term impact on Earth that's truly going to benefit humans for future generations. By focusing on the sustainability of our designs, we're really ensuring that our advancements in space technology do not come at the expense of our home planet Earth.
Yeah, you know, a couple of minutes ago, we threw it back to our co-host Eddie out there at Cars Park, and again, talking about the multiple generations, how cool is it that he was there with the father-son pair that both work at Blue, plus the son's daughter that's there, and she's just going wild over space, and she can't wait to see, you know, this rocket launch. We have to think in that sort of generational time scale, right? There was also, you know, our teammate that's up in launch control, whose grandfather worked, you know, on Apollo, and here she is, you can see she's pregnant in the photo. Like, who knows what her child is going to end up doing? And hopefully, what we're doing here at Blue is going to benefit, again, these next generations. We're building the road to space with these first initial steps tonight. You know, New Glenn. We're also talking about Blue Ring. Blue Ring is one of the first building blocks of the infrastructure that's up there in space, right? It's not just about the transportation, which is crucial, don't get me wrong, but then once we're up there, you know, we're going to need to support others, you know, in this case, you know, our customers, but also ourselves, when I say ourselves, Blue Origin and some of the missions we're doing, as we build our capabilities out there. By definition, space is infinite. And so if we can take advantage of that, and if we can put things up there that will help us take advantage of that, I mean,
for the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth, the future is bright. Okay, with that, we are T-minus 16 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Our teams continue to get aligned. They're working on a couple of issues. This is our first launch. They need that extra time. We're going to give it to them because otherwise speaking, this team is ready to rock and roll, and that rocket there looks chilled in and ready to go to space. So with that, let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad, ready for NG1. Okay, we've just been getting an update from Mission Control. We are standing down today's launch attempt to troubleshoot a vehicle subsystem issue that will take us beyond our launch window. We are reviewing opportunities for our next launch attempt. So we've scrubbed today's NG-1 mission to give the team more time to work that issue, and we're reviewing what other things that we might need to get done in that period. When we know when the next opportunity is, of course, we will let everybody know. Now, to give the viewers a sense of what happens next, the launch team is now working to detank and safe the vehicle. From there, we're going to assess, as mentioned, what other things we might want to get done in our downtime, and that is what's going to guide when the next launch opportunity will be. Follow us on social media. That's the way to stay up to date on announcements for that next launch attempt. We do want to thank you for joining us. We can't wait to get right back here for our next launch attempt. Stay tuned. Gradatum for Rossiter.